Welcome to today's episode of the Declutter Hub podcast, your channel for super easy, no-nonsense advice on how to declutter and organise your home. Please welcome your hosts, professional organisers Ingrid Jansen and Leslie Spellman.
Hello and welcome listeners to episode 35 of the Declutter Hub podcast. I'm Ingrid.
And I'm Leslie.
If you have clutter and want to sort it out, this is the show for you. In today's episode, Leslie and I are talking about taming your junk drawer. Leslie, it's confession time. Do you have a junk drawer in your home?
I absolutely do. And I think everyone needs one, don't they?
I have one too. So we're all good. We're all good.
I just wish I could think of a better name for it, because it's not really full of junk. And I think that's the difference. But do I have a drawer in my kitchen that I have stuff in there to organise things? Absolutely I do. You know, like things that you need close at hand and so on. Yeah, I definitely do. I can't think of a better name. What would that drawer be called?
A drawer of practical things drawer. I think the thing is, because a lot of drawers we see in kitchens are junk drawers, and I think they're full of junk. So I think that's why they've ended up becoming junk drawers, and they're actually bulging at the seams with loads of random stuff. And then it really is a drawer full of junk. But of course, in this podcast, we're going to talk about how to make sure that doesn't happen. And you can actually become a drawer of useful things drawer.
A drawer of useful things drawer. Yeah, exactly. That's what it's going to be called. And so, yeah, you know, the thing is about a junk drawer as well. It's not a quick job, you know.
Oh my gosh.
It's not a quick job, let me tell you. So a junk drawer can take a couple of hours to get through and to manage effectively. So this is not a quick fix, but maybe we need to think about it on an ongoing basis. I think we need to do a one-off declutter of your junk drawer with some realism thrown into the mix of the things that we're going to talk about now, and then try and keep on top of it and be very mindful of what goes in there going forwards.
Yeah, good points. And I completely agree with you. I mean, a junk drawer, you have to really have some good willpower and some time on your hand, because this is not a 10-minute job.
Exactly. So what kind of things do we find in there?
Oh my gosh. Well, the list is endless, but the first things that come to mind are batteries, used and unused. Oh my gosh. I
just have to, because she's faltering already. Can I just tell you, listeners, before we came on, we were having a bit of a kind of brain dump in terms of what kind of things we find in there. And it was like a little English lesson for Ingrid. You should have seen some of the things that she was taught, you know, that sort of stuff, and the hairs and the ribbon and the rope and the string. And I was like, nope, that's not what it's called. It was like a little English lesson. So if she says anything weird, I thought so go on, you go through your list and see what you've got, and I'll tell you whether it's the right English terminology.
Well, you've helped me already along my way, so I think I'm good. But no, most of all, batteries, used and unused. I have found pens. I have found little screwdrivers and tools. I have found fuses, keys, old and new. Those little money bags that you can bring to school, little elastic bands.
Can I say a few?
Yeah.
I may.
Yes.
So you find in there chopsticks is quite a random one that I find all the time. Tea lights are quite often in there. Have we said that already? So a lot of people put tea lights in there as well. You definitely find string and ribbon from gift wrap and things like that. Oftentimes your charger, or definitely old chargers, as for chargers for phones that no longer are in use, are quite often in there. Then you might find takeaway menus in there. Often you find posts, so if there's important posts that people put, they might stuff it in the junk drawer. There is so many things that find their way into that drawer just because you don't know where else you're going to put it, so you just chuck it in there and hope for the best.
Matches, back ties, sellotape, radiator keys. Did I say elastic bands already? Lots of elastic bands. Discount vouchers for stores and shops. Fuses.
I mean, who uses a fuse anymore? Who uses a fuse? Have you ever used a fuse?
No, but I know there are people who actually have fuses.
I know, but I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I can't remember the last time that I changed, because you know, plugs these days are kind of sealed, aren't they? So you don't even need fuses anymore, unless maybe you're an electrician. But in general,
Yeah.
Joe Blogs on the street, I don't think, fiddles around with fuses, but we still find them in there.
Yeah. Expired credit cards.
We could just do a whole podcast of just reeling off things that you find in a junk drawer, but I feel that may lose its impact.
Yeah.
So let's go on and talk
Yeah.
about the why and how we're going to fix this and what we're going to do about it.
So why do people have junk drawers, Leslie? I think everyone has them. That's why we're doing a podcast about it. But why do we have them?
I think there are the psychologies that come into play really with a junk drawer. A lot of times it's worry. So there is a very defined psychology with clutter, which is worrying about the fact that you're going to need it someday. And that forms a big part of a junk drawer. So that's why you'll find in there little screw packs from IKEA when you've built some furniture, or, Allen keys and things like that. That's why you'll find old expired credit cards and things like that, because people think, well, maybe I might need it, or I need to do something with it, but I'm not ready to do that now. So there's a lot of worry goes in there. There's a lot of procrastination goes in there as well, which is another big thing, isn't it, with clutter, is I don't know what to do with that just now, so I'm going to put in there and I'm going to deal with it at a later date. So worry and procrastination definitely form part of a junk drawer.
Mm-hmm.
Dare I say laziness? Am I allowed to say laziness? Is that mean? There's definitely an element of laziness that goes into a junk drawer, I think, isn't it? Because you can't be bothered to put it in its rightful place.
Yeah.
Even if you have a rightful place, if you've got to go up a floor or down a floor to put it away, then you just can't be bothered at that moment in time. So maybe laziness is a bit strong of a word. All right. And we're going to lose loads of listeners. I'm not lazy. But I'm going to be controversial here and say laziness forms a part of a junk drawer. And I think it's just that overwhelm. It gets to a stage where it's just so overwhelming that it's just too difficult to tackle.
Yeah, true. And I think it's also all the stuff, the tiny stuff that doesn't have a home. I think that's all, because it doesn't really go anywhere else. Where do you put it? Or people have not decided yet where the place is where that stuff needs to go. So it just gets dumped in a junk drawer because nobody knows where else it goes.
So it's actually a kind of lack of organization, really, isn't everything, this place for everything and everything in its place. And that goes down to the why. You go down to the why with these things. You need a place for your used batteries until you take them to dispose of them effectively. You need a place for your IKEA screw packs, and they probably need to be labeled up with what they actually are. You need a place for your radiator key when you want to bleed your radiators once a year, or however often you do that. You need a place for your takeaway leaflets if you want to refer to those on a Friday when you get your takeaway, or once a year if you're Ingrid, that she told me last time I was there. She only gets a takeaway once a year, which I was astonished by. But anyway, sorry, but we won't go into that now. So maybe
we'll do another podcast on that, Leslie.
I know, exactly, but that's a whole nother aside. She's shaming me into getting regular takeaways. But anyway, that's an aside. We won't go down the takeaway route. But these little odds and sods, they still need a home. And the thing is, they're very random things.
Yeah.
And so they're not going to have an obvious home. And so we need to find a home for them. And quite often, that home is in the drawer of practical things. But we just need to make sure there's not loads and loads of practical things in that drawer that make it become overwhelming.
Yeah. So you and I both agree a junk drawer is really helpful. We both have one. But so let's discuss then, how do we clear this out?
As we've already said, this is not a quick fix. This is a big job. This is lots and lots of tiny little things that you're going to be unsure of what to do with them, because the worry about whether you need them or not is going to be quite a big deal to you. So, you're going to need a lot of willpower, and you're going to need to be quite ruthless. And you're going to need to make decisions that are quite difficult, I think.
Yeah.
So it's not a quick fix. So you're going to certainly need some time before you even start. You need to, you even probably need input from other members of the family, because there will undoubtedly be things in there that belong to other people, not belong to, but other people might have ownership of, for example.
Yeah.
And so you're going to need to maybe put things to one side and say, do you know what this is?
Yeah.
Et cetera.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is simply knowing what something is, so kind of an IKEA drawer screw pack that we've spoken about, and we find those everywhere times 10 in junk drawers. So you put the piece of furniture up, yeah, but then you somehow have a little pack of stuff left at the end of it, and it might be that you've not attached your Kallax unit to the wall and they've given you a pack that you can do that at some point. But the chances are, if you've not chosen to do that at the time that you built it, you're not going to do that going forwards. And so you may as well just chuck that pack away at the time and just offload it and say goodbye to it. You can always go back to IKEA. Do a fantastic job of little you can get spare parts, can't you, at IKEA? So that's fantastic thing to know. You're never going to be without. So, it's finding homes for these things and knowing what you need and what you don't. Maybe those screw packs should be in your toolbox, wherever your toolbox is. But then equally, there are things like screwdrivers. So in my junk drawer, I do have 2 screwdrivers. I have a flathead screwdriver and a Phillips screwdriver, like standard sort of size that's going to, I do so that I don't have to go downstairs and get it out of my toolbox every time I need it. And so, but I don't have the whole toolbox, I don't have a hammer and, picture hooks and all that kind of stuff, because then if I'm doing a bigger project like that, then I'm going to need to go down and get my toolbox. And so it's where that sort of boundary lies really for you, doesn't it? And how do you need these things close at hand, or can you go downstairs or upstairs or whatever, or to where they're stored and find them?
Absolutely. And I think the main thing is when you start doing a junk drawer and really commit to it, make sure that you have a flat surface that you can work with and some space. And you really have to take everything out of that junk drawer. And then you start to categorize it, and you put your batteries with your batteries and your tools together and your fuses together and all the little, and that's where you can kind of oversee what's going on here and what can I declutter from this drawer.
I know. I mean, I think one of the things that I will say about a junk drawer is it makes me feel guilty, because there's an awful lot of stuff in that junk drawer that will go straight to landfill and that cannot be recycled. Yeah. And so it's always hard. That's a hard thing for me when, I love recycling and we try and recycle everything at source if we can. Yeah. There are an awful lot of things that are in that junk drawer that just can't be, unless you're very, very clever about it. I mean, there's lots of fantastic schemes out there where you can recycle everything. But again, you've got to kind of balance that up with whether or not that's a barrier to you getting the job done, really. Yeah. So yeah, tip everything out. And junk drawers are quite often, because they're next to kitchen surfaces, they're full of crumbs and they're all a bit manky, and you've got, so it's a bit grimy in there. So maybe put a pair of gloves on. Often when I'm doing a junk drawer with a client, I don't wear gloves that often, but I do when I'm doing a junk drawer, because all the crumbs off the worker surface have gone in there. And so it's all a little bit kind of manky and grimy, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, just know that before you start, and then just set to and start working on it and think about what you absolutely need close at hand. This is not everything, because some things will have a home elsewhere in your house. Yeah. But having said that, a junk drawer quite often is towards the tail. If I'm doing a whole house with a client, or if I'm doing my own whole house, then everything else needs to have found a home. You need to have done your utility room. You need to have done your kitchen. You need to have done your stationery. You need to have done your gift wrap, all of those things. So that there is a home for those things before you can tackle your junk drawer. So you can put some things that are in there away from out of the junk drawer to their natural resting place then.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And or indeed, if you're decluttering a kitchen, if there's not a utility room, the junk drawer will be the last thing I will do when I declutter a kitchen, because it can be kind of a TARDIS. And I want to have the other cupboards done first. And if we also get the junk drawer done, but I agree with you, sometimes you need to do other parts of the house and then come back to that junk drawer and then go, now we have a place for stationery. So all the stationery stuff that's in your junk drawer, apart from maybe a pen and a Post-it so you can make a note quickly when you're in your kitchen, needs to go back to where all the stationery lives. We've now taken everything out. We've decluttered it. We've returned stuff that we know needs to go to other places, but we still have stuff left that we want to keep in our drawer of useful things. So how do we keep it tidy?
I think it's really important for us to, we've spoken about sending things to their rightful home. And it's about knowing and creating space for those. So the decluttering is a massive part. So I think in a standard junk drawer, there's probably 70% of that stuff that is going to go. Yeah. Or it's going to go, and it's going to go to a to-do. So if it's coins, for example, you know, because you find coins in there all the time, you know, they either go in your purse or they go to a kind of coin store or to the bank or whatever. If they're foreign coins that are just hanging around, they can go to charity, you know. So it's finding those homes, and because it is a lot of you know, we talked about procrastination before. It is a lot of unfinished jobs that are going to be in there. So the decluttering is the biggest part of this. At that point, then it's about a level of honesty about what you're keeping and what you need close at hand, as I've already mentioned. And then we need to containerize, don't we? We love a container, don't we?
Yeah.
And so this is where you can help with the single-use plastic thing, where, you know, all these little takeaway. I mean, you won't know that, Ingrid, because you never go and have a takeaway, obviously. But for those of us who get, sadly, single-use plastic all the time from the takeaways, that's something where we can use them in those junk drawers, because that is the perfect size pot for junk drawers to containerize things into. So next time you do have a takeaway with those little plastic pots, keep hold of them. If you haven't got, you know, I'm sure you've got probably many in your Tupperware section anyway. But if you haven't, keep hold of them and use them to containerize your junk drawer.
Yeah. Or also, if you have drawers that are a little bit deeper, shoe boxes can be really good as well. If you got like smaller shoe boxes, I'm not talking a size 43 here, but if you've got especially shoe boxes from kids size, there can be really perfect as well.
Or the lids, you know, you can use the lids as well from shoe boxes are good. It's just that anything that's going to stop it from rolling around in the drawer and start to get mixed up with other things, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got those wide kitchen drawers, you know, those kind of double size ones. And so my junk drawer is in one of those. And I've just got a standard cutlery drawer, you know, like a cutlery insert that you would use normally using a cutlery drawer. And so that's what I use to containerize things. So it's got 3 or 4 different sections that work perfectly for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really true. And I think also then, you know, you've got everything containerized now. It's all neatly back in there. But I think the last step, and to kind of make the circle round here, just don't think with anything, I'll just put it quickly there. You know, if you now have a home for a used battery, don't put it in your junk drawer. Put it in the used, the tray or the box or the pot or whatever, which holds your used batteries. And not just quickly put it down, put it away to where it belongs. And only put in your junk drawer what you really need to be in there.
Yeah, you know, and it's fair. So my used batteries go in a container in my junk drawer. You know what I mean? So that might be the home for them. We talk all the time about resetting your house and putting things away and weekly routines and keeping on top of things. And so if it's on your work surface, take it to where it needs to go. I mean, I've got a basket that I use in my hall for things that are kind of misplaced in the house, if they're not in their rightful position. Throw everything in the basket. I mean, a lot of people have stair baskets and things like that. I've got one just outside the kitchen that I put things into, and periodically then I'll either take the basket myself or get the kids to go and put things back in the rooms that they're supposed to go in, so that things, you know, not all the time. I'm not, you know, making these trips every single day, but every 2 or 3 days, I'll put things away rather than just out of sight, out of mind, which is what a lot of people do really with the junk drawers. So we've talked about containerizing. We've talked about the decluttering process in a junk drawer, which is huge. You tell me what you've got left in your junk drawer now then, or your drawer of practical things.
I have my stamp roller. So I can roll my stamp roller over my boxes. So if I get an Amazon package or what package in, which has a label with my address, I want to roll that away with like a cover up roller. I've got definitely.
We probably need to explain that a little bit more, because some of our listeners won't know what that is. It's like an ID roller. You can get them from Amazon and different places, can't you? So what it does is it almost, it puts a layer of ink over an address, and it kind of completely obliterates that address, and so you can protect your address against identity fraud. So obviously you can shred, can't you, normal pieces of paper, but when it's a padded envelope or one of those with bubble wrap in it, you can't do that, and so you need to sort of cover that over.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah,
what you're talking about, your ID roller, yeah?
Yeah, yeah. And I've got a couple of pens in there. I've got some of those money bags when I need to put in cash money for school. My daughter's still in primary school, so there's sometimes need to pay a little thing into school for like tickets for something or donation. So that's in there. I actually have it together with my straws and my napkins. And so that's in there because they're kind of randomly bits, I think, as well. So what's in your junk drawer then?
Well, I've got, as I said, I've got a screwdriver in there. I've got little things that I know will get lost. And so I've got a little milk frother, I can't even say the word, frother. And it's got a tiny little attachment to it that has to come out for washing that I know that I need to find. If I put it in my other utensil drawer, it would get lost among all the wooden spoons and things. So I have that in there. I have a thing to light candles in there. I have medication. So we've got various bits and bobs of medication that's a kind of daily one. So my son has allergy tablets and my daughter does, so they're in there. I've got a tablet that I take each day. So the tablets that I'm definitely taking every day, rather than put them in my standard medication box, because they're used every day, they're in there as well. So I've got maybe 4 different medications in there. I've got a pen, I've got Post-it notes, I've got some matches in there. I mean, my sort of bag ties and bag tidies are in a separate drawer because I put those in with the other tin foils and cling films and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I do have my placemats that we use for dinner in there as well. And that's it, I think. So I've not got loads and loads in there. Little screwdriver that I use. What else is in there? I think that's about it.
Yeah. I'm quite, because I would have, I think normally a couple of screwdrivers, but they're actually in my desk in my living room. So I know exactly where they are. And like you said, my little bag ties are in with my cling film and my foil. And my batteries are in a whole different, they're not in that drawer. They're living somewhere else. I got a nice battery box where I keep all my still to use batteries, and my used batteries are in a container that's labeled used batteries. Yeah. So I've got assigned homes for things like that, so they don't just all end up in my drawer. So it's very specific for your own home what needs to live in your junk drawer.
It is, so I talk about the screwdrivers and things. And so where I've got my tools is a bit of a trek, really. If you've got a garage that's outside or a shed where you've got your standard tools, then that's a bit awkward, isn't it, to get out to? But if you've got your tools in your living room, then that's fine because it's not that far. Yeah. So it very much depends on the makeup of your own house, what's going to be in that drawer. But the real important thing is not to have too much. Do not have too much so that it becomes overwhelming. And make sure that you containerize it so everything just doesn't roll around and become a big mishmash of junk rather than a drawer of practical things. Very nice terminology, I think, Ingrid. I'm still going to call it a junk drawer.
Well, listeners, Leslie, have we missed anything else, or have we discussed anything about the drawer of practical things?
Practical things. No, I think we've covered everything. I mean, it's very hard because obviously everybody's going to have different things in their junk drawer and different things that make them tick and different things in their house and that they need close at hand and things like that. But it's just important to question those things and see whether or not, if they've got a home somewhere else dotted around your home, put them away.
Yeah. So listeners, what are you going to put away from your junk drawer? And find those takeaway containers in your Tupperware cupboard and start to have a bit of a nice tidy and clear out of your drawer of practical things. I love that. I'm going to use that from now on. So we hope you've enjoyed listening to our podcast and are inspired to take action. Thank you so much for listening to us today. And if you'd like to get more tips and advice, do follow us on social media. We are on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And we've got a lovely, lively Facebook group community. We'd love to see you there. And if you don't want to miss the next weekly episode, don't forget to subscribe to the Declutter Hub podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. And it will pop into your notifications each Friday. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Declutter Hub podcast. Check out declutterhub.com for more inspiration, and don't forget to tune in next week.